Hello everyone, and this is my review for Monday Night Raw on July 6th, 2015. And I'm actually going to do a different type of format. Usually I kind of start at the beginning of the show and go towards the end of the show. I'm just going to kind of go with a few different areas. And I'm pretty much just going to talk about a few of the things I didn't necessarily like right at the beginning. Of course, one of those is being the Dolph Ziggler and Rusev feud, adding Summer Rae and Lana in there. This week I think they did a little bit a better job of it, but like the weeks before in the storyline, they basically made Rusev like this sympathetic almost type character, and this week they go in a completely different route. They don't fully flip-flop it. He almost looks a little bit sympathetic right at the beginning, but they do kind of flip-flop it towards the end with Rusev revealing that his ankle's finally healed. He can, they'll finally have this match and everything with him and Dolph at some point in time, and they kind of lured it in as a trap and everything to allow Rusev to get the advantage over Dolph Ziggler in here. I'm still not really caring much for this storyline. Again, I feel like they completely messed with Rusev's character in the terms of not in the terms of what he was before. Obviously, they had to change it with him, and when they decided to do the whole split with him and Lana. But the aspect that they made him almost like a sympathetic babyface type character, and Dolph honestly looked like the heel in most cases, was the area that was the area I felt like they messed it up on. They should never have tried to make him look like, or even if it was unintentional, they should never have tried to make him look like a sympathetic, like babyface type character. Rusev feels more of the always feels like more of a heel character at any given time, and hopefully they can reverse those roles and kind of make it seem like it's supposed to be. But honestly, I'm still not liking the storyline all that much. So in the end, it was what it was this week. They have obviously got to continue on with it. It's going to have some kind of match. I think it'll be a relatively good match between the two of them, because obviously ring work wise, both of them can put on a really good match in the ring. So we'll see what happens with that and how that match actually comes off. But in the storyline sense, not caring for it too much, at least not yet. We'll see if that actually changes down the road, but I don't think it will. I'm hoping to everything right now that the R-Truth King Barrett storyline is finally over with this match tonight. Relatively good match between the two of them, but I want this like King Barrett versus R-Truth, and him thinking he's king, what's up and everything is kind of over with and done, and they can move on somewhere else with King Barrett and have R-Truth go into something else as well if they got anything for him at this point in time. So hoping that one's done. The other area I didn't really necessarily like about the show, and it's more or less just because after his feud with Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose is kind of in this obscure area right now where he's not doing really anything storyline wise. He's just having a match here, a match there, kind of, or interacting against Seth Rollins in some case in point, somewhere interacting with Seth Rollins in some way, shape, or form. But this week, obviously, it's pretty much known that he's not really in a storyline with anybody. He just had a match with Bo Dallas, relatively good match, but it kind of sucks that they don't have him intended for some kind of storyline here in the very near future. So we'll see where that goes. Hopefully he'll have something going into SummerSlam, but you don't necessarily know where they're going to go with it. Areas that I did necessarily, areas I personally kind of liked about the show, though in one case it wasn't, I'm not too particularly fond of the feud because it's been done plenty of times. First of all, the Sheamus Roman Reigns match. I know we've seen it over the past few weeks. I like how they keep interjecting the they keep interjecting Bray Wyatt in there and costing Roman Reigns the match, and in different ways as well. It's not necessarily, oh, he got distracted, now bro kick and match over with, like you had that at one point. Now you've also had Bray Wyatt distract him and cause a count out, and made it look like he was about to try to get the Bray Wyatt, but it completely disappears in the end. I like where they're going with the storyline. They work with the creepy factor of how Bray Wyatt is, and the whole disappearing act in there as well. And then the whole anybody but you type bit that they're going with, or like the little saying there that Bray Wyatt keeps going with, kind of is playing off of how the internet, like almost how the internet fans have been going. It's like they want anybody but Roman or Roman Reigns or something in that sense. And I like where they're going with that, and we'll see how they continue on with that here in the very near future. And I also like the aspect that they use this as a way to reinterject Randy Orton back into his storyline with Sheamus. I'm not too particular with the feud. We've seen it plenty of times, but they're kind of working that feud at this point. So, as soon as they get through the storyline, obviously they can go into a completely different route there. So it was at least a good way of interacting and getting that storyline back up and going, so it can finish at some point, so they can go elsewhere. Sorry, I lost train of thought too for a second. Just had to also clear my throat a little bit. The New Day and the Lucha Dragons match I thought was really good. I don't think it really served too much of a purpose in the terms of how the storyline between them and the Primetime Players, though you had the Primetime Players out there on commentary. And for a good portion of it, I felt like they did a relatively good job there. Not just, trying to put themselves over, but kind of talking about the New Day, and also trying to keep JBL on track in some cases as well. It kind of went weird with them on commentary for a little bit, but all in all, the match with them and the Big E and Kofi Kingston against the Lucha Dragons, I thought was a really good match. I liked the ending spot where they it looked like they were the Lucha Dragons were going to do a double dive out of the ring, but they Sin Cara misses the dive, and then Kalisto gets caught by Big E and gets suplexed out there to cause the finish in the ring. I felt that was a good way of ending the match there, and it just came off really, really well. So this is going to bring me to the area with Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins storyline. I liked the segments in general for the three major segments of this in general for the Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar storyline. The promo that Paul Heyman gave at the beginning of the show, really good promo as usual. He's coming up with different ways of selling Brock Lesnar in some way, shape, or form. Basically, mostly playing off the Suplex City this week, and basically saying it's like, okay. Basically saying it's like, yeah, the match and the title, and saying that Brock Lesnar was going to win the title Battleground was going to happen with Battleground, but the beatings was going to begin tonight, and everything on that aspect, it led you to being pumped up to seeing something that they would do with Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins in some way, shape, or form, and that's what they obviously ended up doing. I liked the pep talk and the bit that they were doing with Seth Rollins and Triple H backstage that set up them calling out Brock Lesnar later that night. I also like the aspect that Seth Rollins and J&J Security brought weapons to the ring. They got the axe handles out there, and it just made it for an area of feeling that, okay, they need this to try to gain the advantage over Brock Lesnar in some way, shape, or form. It came off relatively good. I also liked the aspect that they toyed around with it the week before. They didn't fully toy around with it, but they kind of put it in your heads that car was going to get destroyed in some way, shape, or form. And man, did they do it. And I'm glad they used Brock Lesnar for this one, because he made it even more epic, because, well, He's just gonna go ahead and decide to do a discus toss with the freaking car door, and it came off really good. The destruction of the car came off extremely well. I liked how Lesnar was initially, playing up there. He was just going to get in the ring, backs off, and Paul Heyman, it's like, I'm going to bring you some toys to destroy this car. And the car destruction spot was actually done really well this week. It wasn't just some kind of like little basic thing. It was just like a complete total destruction. And then of course him getting to J&J's security, because they finally had to come out there and get the try to get Brock Lesnar for destroying the car. It looks like they're gonna kind of write off Jamie Noble for the time being. Obviously because he got really injured initially, but they're going to probably play it off with the arm injury as well. But because of the Kimura lock, him making it look like he broke Jamie Noble's arm in there, so they're probably going to write him off there. I'm not sure if they're writing off Joey Mercury in this case with how he got beaten by Brock Lesnar, and then he got suplexed onto the top of the car. We'll see if that's going to be the case, or if it's going to be now just Kane and Mercury and Seth versus Brock Lesnar in this case. But the last spot that I liked about it was the whole, was Seth Rollins going to try to stand his ground once Brock Lesnar got in the ring? It's like, no, and gone. I like that little spot there at the end. And this brings me to what actually ended the show for the night, was the John Cena Open Challenge match for the United States title. I liked the promo that Kevin Owens gave, though in the end didn't really, with how easily he gave up the spot to Cesaro. I know they're trying to play it off as like, okay, I'll just wait for Battleground in that aspect, but after the promo he gave, you almost felt like you needed this match to actually happen in this case, or make it a triple threat in some way, shape, or form between Cesaro, Owens, and Cena. But it didn't really come off all that good, the aspect of him just backing off. Now, hopefully, like next week or something, they decide to do a match with Kevin Owens and Cesaro, and they can actually play off of that a little bit in there. But the match between Cena and Cesaro was amazing. It was a great match, no complaints. And actually, you expected Kevin Owens to do something after or either during or after the match, which obviously he did. Sorry, losing my train of thought. I had to clear my throat again. I don't know why I have to keep doing that this week. But, having Owens come out there after the match and try to get the advantage over Cena, but this time Cena turns the tables, I'm actually okay with that in some way, because you had Owens go over on a lot of these spots before. Now it's kind of time, maybe, okay, Cena gets a little bit of the advantage. And then how will they play off of that going into next week's Raw before the end of Battleground? We'll see where they go with that one. The match, like I said, was an amazing match between the two of them. Please do something big with Cesaro, especially after the two matches he had with Cena, and you put him in a main event spot. You can do something with him now. The crowd got crazy behind the match. From the beginning, almost from the beginning to end. Definitely, a good quarter of the way through, and then to the end, they were completely into the match. Cesaro, I feel like they can do something with him. He may not be overly great on the mic, but you had some other guys in the past be, bigger stars and not necessarily be good on the mic. Maybe not actually give him a mouthpiece in some way, shape, or form. He can pull off a decent promo, but not a great one at this time. But I feel like they need to do something with Cesaro, especially after these two matches that he had. So we'll see if they do anything with him down the road. And yeah, overall, I felt this week's Raw was, you had a couple areas that weren't necessarily that good. I completely forgot to even add in the aspect of the Paige Brie Bella match that was continuing on the Paige versus you know, both the Bellas and now Alicia Fox. That match, okay match. Storyline wise, I'm actually okay with the aspect of the numbers game getting to Paige and then having Brie Bella win that match. It kind of works out in the end. You can't have Paige go over them every week, because then you'll make them, at least, you know, in the terms of having the numbers, look completely weak. You got to make them look a little bit strong in some way, shape, or form. And then that can also work into an aspect of them actually bringing in NXT Divas or whatever they're going to do to eventually, like, do a storyline of, okay, the numbers are now even. What's going to happen there? So, overall, actually, I thought the matches this week were relatively good. Just some of the storylines I didn't really care about, at least in one facet or another. But overall, match quality-wise, I felt was a relatively decent. Relatively decent. Obviously, with the matches that you had with Cesaro and Cena, it was a completely amazing match. And you had, I felt, a relatively good match with Roman Reigns and Sheamus until they did the storyline interference. New Day and Lucha Dragons were a really good match as well. I found those to be very enjoyable. Bo Dallas and Dean Ambrose was a relatively good one as well. Nothing overly special there, but at least they did something that had Dean Ambrose on the show for that aspect. So overall, this week's Raw, I felt actually came off relatively good. Just a couple storylines that I don't really like where they're going with it, and I got into those a little bit earlier on in this review. So we'll leave it at that. And that is my review for Monday Night Raw this week. And I thank you guys for watching.